In today's video, we're going to learn how to embroider on a hoodie on a single needle machine. Be sure to watch to the end to learn the best tips and tricks. Attention all machine embroidery beginners. Are you struggling to hoop your fabrics, don't know what thread to use, or even what tension is? Sign up for our free Embroidery for Beginners course and become an expert in no time. Click the link in the description to get started. Now the materials we're going to be using in this video are pretty basic. We need our embroidery hoop, and we're going to use a 5x7 hoop for this design. We're going to use our cutaway stabilizer. It's a 2.5 ounce stabilizer, a little bit thicker, but we don't have to worry about stabilizer shadows being that this is a sweatshirt. I am going to have my template, and when you're first starting out, this is one of the best ways to learn how to put your placement exactly where you want it. And we're going to cut it out. I always have my X and Y, that little crosshair that shows me my start position on the design, and that way I can make sure that it's where I want it to be and make sure that it is centered. I've also chosen all the threads that I'm going to use for this design, and that's pretty much it. Now the first thing we need to do is figure out how we're going to place the hoop on the item. Because we're dealing with a flatbed machine, we know that we need an entry point to get into this item so that we can turn it inside out. It generally works better to go through the body than through the head because it's a much larger opening. And this one should be a little bit more friendly as well because it is a big sweatshirt. So I'm going to actually turn this way so that I'm going to have the arm of my machine be entered right here when I adjust my hoop. That way I can get in through the body and it's going to be a lot easier to access. And my design is an appropriate size so that it will fit within the hoop itself. Now before I actually do my hooping, I'm going to cut my template, and I'm also going to do the placement of exactly where I'm going to put my design, and I'll pin it in place on the actual hoodie and look at it to make sure that the placement is correct. You have to keep in mind that all of your garments come in different sizes, so your placement from an extra small to a triple extra large will be different because it's going to come a little higher or lower, and you want to make sure your placement is good so that you don't accidentally ruin a garment. So for our placement, we're going to look at the center of the actual garment. I'm going to come in right at the shoulder and come down, and I'll probably place it about 2.5 to 3 inches up from the underarm of the actual sleeve. And that way my placement will be centered within the design, and that should give me a nice fit as far as embroidery is concerned. Now before you embroider, you might want to just hold it up and make sure that your positioning looks good based on the size of the garment. And also there are positioning tools available that you can purchase to actually give you more accurate guidelines based on sizes. If you have any suggestions or experience with embroidering hoodies that you'd like to share, please leave it in the comments. There's always various ways to do things, and we're always willing and open to learning new techniques. That's part of the, love of this craft, is that we all start out as beginners. So before we actually hoop our item, I do always like to pre-gauge my material thickness, and I generally take it, turn it over one time, and I'll press with my finger and my thumb and look for the space that I see between there. Then when I take my hoop and I hold it on the opposite end of where you tighten and loosen, I'll generally try to pull it up and look for that same space that I see in between that area. By presetting my hoop, it allows me to hoop once, hoop properly, and I'm not struggling with the actual item afterwards. Now I'm going to take my stabilizer. Same thing, if I don't have a hooping station or hooping aid, which actually holds my stabilizer in place, I'm going to take a little bit of painter's tape and I'm going to secure this before I put it inside of the garment. So before we start the hooping, we're going to take our stabilizer and we are going to put our stabilizer onto our hoop, and I'm going to use a little bit of painter's tape to secure it in place so that I'm not worried about my stabilizer moving as I'm trying to go in through the body of the actual hoop. So I'm going to put that in place right there, and we will turn this side over. We're going to remove this before we start the machine, but this will just allow me to take this as one piece without worrying about movement, go in through the body, and get it in place for the hooping. So I'm just going to slide it right in and get it in place underneath. And then I'm going to look at the actual hoop and feel my way around and slide it in position underneath, kind of using my fingers to just sort of look at the space from the top to the bottom, and on either side, just visually gauging. I also want to make sure at this point that my hoop is going to be straight underneath. I do not want this to look like it is turning one direction or the other. So I can position my hoop, and I'm going to also take this and try to line up the horizontal and vertical lines. There's little lines within the template that I see going horizontally and vertically, and I have lines on my hoops showing the vertical and horizontal, and I'm just going to put that in place at the top and then make sure that I have all of the fabric nice and even. There's no actual bubbling or anything happening there. I'm going to hold it down and forward with my fingers, take my palms and push in one motion. Again, I did not fight with the hoop at all. There was resistance, but it's nice and firm in there. And if at all possible, I do not like to tighten up my hoop on the inside after the fact, because that's when you get hoop burn within your garments. Okay, so there we have our item hooped. And if I look at the actual design, I can see the hoop is in place, and I can also see that my line is straight on both directions. And now we're ready to take it onto the embroidery machine and finish the process. Now our machine is all ready to go. Now we just have to take our garment, and I'm going to go in and remove that tape that I temporarily held my stabilizer in place with. So I'm going to remove that, and now I'm going to very carefully turn my item inside out. Because this is a flat bed machine, I need to create almost a little bowl that I'm going to bring this in. So there's going to be a little bit of maneuvering and finesse to try to get this in. There's a lot of material to be moved out of the way. So we're going to come around to the other side here, and we're going to very carefully start guiding all of this material into the back of the machine, put up our presser foot, and start guiding this in place. This is one of the reasons that we love tubular machines, because all of your fabric will hang outside of the way. But when you're starting out with embroidery, most of us start out with a single needle flatbed machine like this, and you just have to take a little bit of time, get it into the carriage over the arm, have everything moved out of the way. It's always good to check underneath the machine that no material is actually trapped underneath. Those are usually mistakes you only make one time, when you sew the backside of your garment through to the front, and it makes it unusable. But as long as everything's out of the way, then I can drop my needle position down, I can go into my positioning, and I can move my needle so that it is going to be in place. So now I'm just going to take my design and move my needle so that it's in place. I'm going to remove the template, get the pins and the template out of the way, and we're ready to go. For all you Embroidery Design Club members, be sure to print off the accompanying cheat sheet recipe card for this video. Don't forget that as an Embroidery Design Club member, you can instantly download all your cheat sheet recipe cards to help you quickly and easily embroider virtually anything. Plus, you'll also get access to over 30,000 embroidery design, bonus projects, free giveaways, live training, and more. Click the link in the description below to learn more about our fan favorite embroidery club now. Okay, well, the design is all done. Let's take it off the machine. Just very carefully move it out of the way. And there we have it. The design looks great. Nice and clean. Registration is correct. All I have to do now is remove the hoop. And if I want to get rid of the outline, it might have a small amount of hoop burn on it. All you have to do is take a little bit of steam from your household iron. I'm going to remove the hoop, turn it inside out, clean up the back side, and cut away the stabilizer. And this design is ready to wear. So we'll just come as close as possible to the edge, leaving a little bit of the stabilizer all the way around. Just be very careful that you don't cut into the material. Generally, I like to pull up on the stabilizer and just guide myself around and clean up any little extra threads that might be around the outside. Once you actually have the design finished and you turn it inside out, you'll notice that it looks nice and clean. I love embroidering on a quality hoodie. Everything lines up perfectly, and there's lots of dimension within this design. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed learning how to embroider a hoodie on a single needle machine. Be sure to leave your questions in the comments and watch this video next. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, Legacy family.